Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Home Service Hustle. I am your host, Jonathan Bannister. And today I've got a very special guest, right? This guy has almost 4 decades in the industry. He's really showing his age here, though he doesn't look a day over 30, but he has gone from helper to 8-figure exit owner. He's wore every hat in between. He's the dad of 3 beautiful daughters. He's currently big into the acquisition game. We're going to talk heavily into that. He's also writing a book. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Gary Singleton to the show. Gary, welcome.
Hey, Jonathan, 4 decades. Wow.
I know, right? When I read the bio and I saw 38 years, I was like, oh, he's 38 years old. You know, there's like no way he's been in this business 38 years. So take us back to the beginning. How did you get started into this space? Was it by choice or accident?
First, I'm just curious, how many people do you think watch this versus listen?
I would probably say more listen.
Yeah.
We get a couple thousand downloads per episode, and those downloads are going to take place on like Spotify and stuff like that.
That's what I was thinking. Okay. So, well, to go back in time, the dark ages, 1987, 88-ish, I believe. Yeah. Started as a helper, and I was very entrepreneurial. I started doing maintenance when I shouldn't have. I actually just started doing flyers, doing maintenance on my own, unlicensed, young, dumb kid.
Yeah.
So parents figured out real quick, get me in school, get me a job. Started as a helper, and honestly, back then they used to just lay guys off in the fall, and I didn't know that. And so I had gotten my first apartment, found myself sleeping in my car for about 2 weeks. So a lot of time when I'm in front of a team of technicians, I give them the story of, hey, I once slept in my car. Well, Jonathan, it was only 2 weeks, okay? But it still counts.
Yeah.
You do a lot of thinking about, where did I mess up to be 21 years old sleeping in my car, right? But anyways, long story short, man, I was focused like a lot of guys out there that try to start their business on being a really great tech, okay? Good at commercial, good at residential, good at selling, especially good at diagnostic and wiring. That doesn't really prepare you, as you know, to be a business owner.
Right.
After I made it to service manager, and there's really nowhere else to go from there. That's when I set out on my own with my last paycheck of $500. The thing I want to stress to your listeners is, man, I had no backers. I had no loans. I didn't even have credit. I had $500 and a lot of energy. And since then I grew max twice. I got it to right at 10 million, in revenue before exiting. And, but the important thing is, I grew it twice. I got a lot of practice. I went through a bad divorce, unfortunately, in the middle of that. I got it up to about 4.5 million, which in 2005-6 numbers is probably closer to 8 today, right?
Okay.
And basically started over and made a nice 8-figure exit. Stayed on with private equity as a consultant. Really great, fantastic team of people, really. And recently partnered into another company to help out on the HVAC side, and about to exit that one. So I would say scaled 2.25, because I can't claim a lot of time with the current company I'm with. I've only been with them for about a year. So,
so take us back to when you decided to first go out on your own, right? You left, you started with $500. What was that like? And then when did you start getting some, where you had floor underneath your feet, where you didn't feel like it was quicksand?
Well, I'll throw one interesting factoid out there. If you've ever seen Tiger King, Joe Exotic from Tiger King actually helped me start my first company.
Really?
He really did. He owned a pet store. Back then, he was not as crazy as he is on the show, okay?
Okay.
He was actually in his mid to late 20s, a very sharp businessman. He was giving me advice, very good advice, actually. And he needed a kennel built with 5 AC units. And he said, just get out there, start it, and I'll give you these 5. And I thought, that's my start. So he literally helped me get it started. Back then, there really wasn't any any groups like Service Nation Alliance or Nexstar. Matter of fact, there wasn't any social media. There wasn't even internet. There was phone book and a lot of competition, right? And being the young guy, no one wanted to help you. They just, I don't know, they just looked at you like sink or swim. You learn a lot. I learned from a lot of mistakes. Okay. And it's the hard way, the school hard knocks way, but it's also the right way. It's funny, Jonathan, I spoke the other day, about all of the fake it till you make it consultant trainers in our space that we see. And it really is a problem. I've run into too many people that have asked me for advice and help. And I wasn't even quoting them prices, and they had already blown all of their extra money on, wannabes that really didn't help them at all. And so the thing is, anybody that's been in the business and done it, right, can give you good advice. Anyone that's weathered the storm, like, for example, yes, all of the standard operating procedures and the all of the structure is going to still be the same. And look, you can get that free. Some of these fake it till you make it guys, they're getting it off of Facebook or the internet or, wherever they get it. And they're just packaging up and selling it. You can get that free. The basic structure is not that hard, right? What becomes hard is every demographic is different. Every geographic, is going to be different. Weather plays a role. Politics play a role.
Yeah.
Okay? Economy plays a role. Things like wars play a role. 9/11, Jonathan, we were calling our phones to see if they even worked. I mean, it turned into a ghost town. And you've got to know how to pivot daily, and adjust on the fly to those kind of things. You can go broke real quick, when you start adding employees and insurance and benefits, and you aren't making your numbers. So any operator that has weathered the storm and actually grown a company through rough times with growth and still profitable and retain their employees can give good advice. You need to really vet your quote unquote gurus out there, y'all. A bunch of bling and flash doesn't make a guru.
So we're going to circle back to this because I do want to talk more about the coaching and consulting space. What would you say? Like you made a point there about 9/11 and you had to call, make sure your phones were working and how to pivot daily. That struck my brain because as a digital marketing owner, there's times that I feel that some of our clients, like they don't look at anything daily and they're just expecting the marketing agency to just fill their board up every single day. Even though the marketing agency doesn't live in their town, is not all up on the date of their weather changing, every single second. So talk a little more about that. What should these operators be planning? Is it weekly? Is it daily? Is it monthly? And then is it all of the above? Is it yes? And then how much of that responsibility is on your marketing vendors versus you also as the operator?
Yeah, I'm betting that's tough, Jonathan, right? How many times you get cussed at for being the reason they're not getting calls on the board, right?
All the time.
Well financially.
All the time. Yeah, all the time.
It can be a thankless task, digital marketing. So many guys aren't really looking at their numbers statically. Everyone starts, most guys start as an operator. Okay, they start as a technician, or as Ken Goodrich said, a technician with an entrepreneurial seizure, right? Man, you've totally got to learn a whole new mindset. Had you told me when I first started that I wasn't really going to scale and grow like crazy until I learned how to mold young people and pour love and knowledge into young people and manage young people. Back in those days, it was jump in the truck and ride with me and do what I do. That was the training back before best practice groups and whatnot. So you have to learn to look at, we were doing call by call management before it was called that. Look at the opportunity, coach the guy literally before he goes to the call. I mean, obviously, if you have a technician that you know his skill level and he's meeting his KPIs and whatnot, you may not have to. But when you're new and you're starting to hire guys, you really have to focus on their personality, what they're saying. Role playing always helps. Watching numbers daily, watching the call volume daily, watching the quality of calls daily. Look around you. You know, I used to leave my neighborhood and judge what kind of day it was going to be on how many service trucks I saw in the neighborhood when I was on my morning run. And you really do get a little bit of an idea of what's going on today just from that before my day even started. If I see 8 or 10 service trucks in my neighborhood, man, it's probably going to be a busy day, right? And that can macro from there. It really does. So focusing on your cost, you kind of have to do it all at once. Focus on your costs, your techs, your marketing, your brand. As you know, I mean, I think you told me this, Jonathan, you can be the best damn digital marketer on the planet, but if it's just an average brand, that doesn't have any kind of statement or story or feel good to it,
Yeah.
It's just going to fade in the background, So, yeah, be nice to your digital marketing guy.
It's true. And, I've got a book coming out. I think I may have discussed with you, right? And in this book, it's Fuck Digital Marketing. Why building a memorable brand matters more than rankings. And the reason that I wrote that title was because we had a client that we were getting phenomenal results from digital. I knew they were great because he had some bad experiences with a couple marketing companies. So I made it a personal thing for me because it was a referral. And the client that reached out to me to say, hey, will you talk to this owner? He's having some issues. I take that personal when a client refers someone. And so I knew the results were good, but though I got a text message one morning from one of the account managers saying, hey, the client just called in and he's saying it's 12 degrees outside and his phones aren't ringing. And I was like, well, why is that happening? Because I know the digital results are good. So I go to my computer and I have this Chrome extension that's called GS Locator. And so with GS Locator, I can put my computer in a city in Kentucky or Cincinnati, and it'll manipulate. Google drops a pin on a map so that's where it thinks I'm located, so that all the ads and everything are local to me. And so I changed my location to Northern Kentucky, and I put in heating repair and furnace repair near me and all the things. And he's all over page 1 of Google. He's in LSA and PPC. He's in the second spot of Google Maps, but it was on the Google Maps section is what sparked me to write the book. Because when I go to it and I see him all down the page, and then I see him in the second place, but in the first and the third spot was 2 brands that I'd recognized. And I'd only been to Northern Kentucky one time to go up there with my videographers to shoot his video content. But on one company, they had every billboard going down the freeway. I went to go play golf with someone while I was up there, and the whole freeway was this one air conditioning company. And then when I went to go eat dinner with my video team in downtown Cincinnati, we came out. It was a beautiful downtown. I'd never been to Cincinnati before. And we're walking downtown, and they had this tram system, like a train. The whole tram was wrapped in this pink, bright ass pink wrap. And it was called Arling House Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. And I was like, wow, like that's a nice wrap. That's a nice brand. They're like, yeah, all their trucks are wrapped in that pink. It's, it's a big thing. But when I saw it that day, I couldn't ever unsee it. There's my client in the second spot, but in first and third was this powerhouse brands.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, right then it was like, it doesn't matter how great your digital results are. If the person goes and searches for plumber near me, electrician near me, then you're going to have all this competition on the page with you. What makes you stick out amongst those other people?
Sure.
Right.
So, and a junior operator really needs to do his own recon to start off with. Okay. Look at the area you serve. All right. What's the demographic of that? Is it old people? Is it young people? Is it a mix? Is it, high spenders, low spenders? Look at the count. Okay. If you're in a city of 40,000 people, 10% of the market share is 4,000. All right.
Now, is that people or homes? What are you looking at there?
People.
Okay.
if your population of a town you're trying to operate in is 40,000, all right, and getting more than 10% market share, I think people are confused about market share. Okay, 10% is dominating. Think about that. That means you take care. You service 1 out of every 10 homes on every street. 10% is big, right? So look at that as a good base number. You want to try to get to 10% market share. All right, that's doable, and it's somewhat dominating, but that's only 4,000 people. Okay, I've talked to a lot of guys that, man, I want to get this thing to 30, 40 million. Well, you're not gonna right there. You're in a town of 40,000 people. You're going to have 4,000. What's the lifetime expectancy per customer? It's recon work. It's do your own survey, right? Before you even start spending money on any of it, look at where you're at. If you're in a town that size, maybe 20 million is about the biggest you can realistically get to. Sure, you could always get bigger. There's unicorns, right?
But do you ever look at the home count or just the population? I'm just curious there.
I look at everything. I look at what kind of grass they have in their front yard, man.
I mean, because realistically, when you think of a transaction that's taking place, like we're talking residential, it's at a home. Like, so it doesn't matter if there's 5 people in that home,
right?
You're only going to do one thing at that home, so right. I'm just curious, if someone says I live in a town of 40,000 people, that might only be 10,000 homes.
That's right.
Right. So then right. Obviously, and
if there's a lot of apartments, it could be less than that. I mean, so okay. Yes, I do that on a separate, I probably should, it might take a while to describe all this. I do that when I do direct mail. So I still believe in direct mail heavily. I used Otastic for many years. Mike Layton was literally a marketing genius. I hope he hears this. He probably won't, but I got better information from Mike Layton than just about any other source combined. He really had it dialed in. And anyway, so that's where I get my home count. It generally is direct mail.
Okay.
So, this might be a good time to interject before we get too far in. I wanted to give your listeners a takeaway, okay? And direct mail sort of plays a role in that. And so does demographic, like I was talking about. Okay, so if you're listening to this, if you're in the 1 to 10 million range, here's something I hear regularly, Jonathan, and I see it on Facebook. You probably do too. Where are you guys getting your calls? I'm spending so much money on pay-per-click and I'm just not getting the calls.
Yep.
Hey, we're having a tough year this year. Is it slow for y'all? Is this not one of the most common things you see?
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to give you the fix right now. Drum roll. This is something I've done more than once. I've done it multiple times. It is by far the best ROI I've ever done. And it's so simple, but you got to do all of it. And it's also cheap. All right. I call it sort of grassroots guerrilla marketing is what I call it. So in almost every town USA, I'm in Mansfield, which is between Fort Worth and Dallas. There are neighborhoods that are, you know what they are usually. There's neighborhoods where you kill it. There's neighborhoods you want to be in. There's neighborhoods with big houses and 3 air conditioners, whatever the case may be. Yeah. My neighborhood that I used to live in particular, I would see more AC trucks leaving my neighborhood than I would the rest of the way to work. So it was definitely a good one. And that's kind of where I got the idea. But anyways, I did this. I took separate subdivisions, if you will. I'll use the example that comes to mind. The first one I tried was called Kings Mill. I didn't have enough customers in there. 20-year-old homes due for first replacement near good schools, so they're staying there for a long time.
Okay.
A lot of AC trucks coming and going. I need that hood. So here is the guerrilla marketing.
Okay.
Get some yard signs. Dope Marketing has signs for $3 a piece. Put them out. And listen, Jonathan, I didn't have permission. I was sticking them on the medians. I was sticking them on the corner houses. I was sticking them on the entrance. The city was picking them up the next day. Guess what? I went back out and put them back out. Don't care. They're $3 a sign. Throw them away. Doesn't matter. You're going to see them. They're going to see them. I do an email campaign. There's several different cheap programs. You can get email addresses. I follow it up with postcard. It is easy to direct mail. EDSM at the local post office here. You can literally narrow it down to that neighborhood and only mail to that neighborhood. Send a letter that is specific to their neighborhood, especially if it has an HOA. Just say, Kingsmill neighbors, we are offering you this. Door flyers. We would hang door flyers. I did them after work, got a little exercise, had my daughters help me. Door flyers are cheap. And then finally, truck campaign. My warehouse guy, he was only busy 8 to about 10, and then about 3 to 5. He's primarily just staging our installs for the day. The middle of his day, if the shop was clean, he had nothing to do. So I just sent him in a company van to parade up and down that street for an hour, a couple of days. So this is a combination, right? Yard signs are $3. Direct mail's cheap. It's usually about 60 cents per piece to the mailbox.
Yeah.
Door flyers are cheap. All right. And then driving a truck around, it can be as cheap as free to just whatever you pay your warehouse guy. And then email blast if you want to add that too. Okay, those 4 things combined only took me about 45 days to get traction. After about 45 days of doing this, I may have had $700 in cost here. Okay, did 100 grand in that neighborhood. The next 30 days, by the way, not the next year. The next 30 days, after 45 days of doing what I just told the listeners here, I picked up that subdivision and nailed 100 grand worth of sales within 1 month.
Wow.
Talk about an ROI. Again, I don't think I had more than $700. $3 a sign, some postcards, some door hangers, and I did pay my warehouse guy to parade around the neighborhood. He only did it a few days for about an hour, and I told him drive slow, be courteous, wave to people. But guess what that did? By the time they saw a letter in their mailbox, email in their email, a door flyer on their door, a yard sign on the corner, a truck driver in the neighborhood, they thought we were the go-to people in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
And man, it worked like gangbusters. And I repeated it. I did it again to pick up another subdivision. So that is micro marketing. And let's face it, man, one of the things I mentioned Mike Layton earlier. He said, Gary, what do you want to do? I said, well, world domination, but I'll settle for DFW. And he said, it's not going to happen. And I just met him and I'm like, well, you're not very inspiring. Maybe I've called the wrong guy. And he's the one that said, how much revenue do you think is done? And he knew the answer, and it was over $1 billion. He said, anyone doing $1 billion or $500 million? No.
Yeah.
But how about 10% of the market share? Okay, 10% of the market share, right? And he goes, now, you're not going to get DFW. You don't have the money. All right. How about my city? No. How about my zip code? No. How about your neighborhood? My neighborhood.
Yeah.
He was not wrong, man. You take over one neighborhood, the one next door is not hard. Your truck's already there. They probably have friends. They moms have the same kids in the same school. They talk. And you can grow from just a subdivision to a whole zip code pretty quick that way on a shoestring budget. And then, of course, yes, need to plug you in, add in digital marketing on top of that, because let's face it, after they see all this stuff, they're going to want to find you online. Then they go to the internet, find you, bam, you're getting one hell of an ROI off of your whatever Jonathan's doing for them digital marketing wise. It's going to affect the results they get from that too. So that is the takeaway. To reiterate, on email, postcard, door flyer, truck campaign.
I love that strategy, and that is essentially what we're going back to, right, in the digital world. And so I call it 5 Mile Famous. Yeah. And until we become, you're going to be a local celebrity with starting out in a neighborhood, right? And so we can still use technology. I like to use old school. Like we just recently did these letters where I think I may have showed you this, but this is handwritten with a stamp on it. And then there was like a handwritten note inside of it. We sent 2,500 of these out to 2,500 homes. Mm-hmm. And then we locked onto those 2,500 homes using addressable geofencing. So I could make sure that all 2,500 of those exact homes were seeing the videos that we wanted them to see. And they got a letter in their mail. When I knocked on doors, because I knocked on 6 of them myself, my goal was I wanted to set one appointment door knocking so I could say like, I've done it. Then I could be a guru. Now I can go be a consultant in the door canvassing space because I've done it one time. Right. Right. And I set 6 in 2 hours. And it was super easy. Now, the other door knockers that were out there with us that have done it for years, they said I had beginner's luck. I said it was like shooting fish in a barrel because every homeowner I talked to said, I got the letter. I've seen the videos. So it was like they were very friendly about it. They weren't wanting to shoot me and run me off of their front porch. But this is what we're trying to get our clients to understand, is that if you don't get the frequency to 3 to 5 times a week consistently, and that can come from a yard sign, that can come from a door hanger, that can come from a Facebook ad, that can come from your truck driving by. But if they don't see it 3 to 5 times a week, it'll never stick in their brain. And so when my clients, they go, well, like you were saying, well, what about Frisco? And it's like, there's 270,000 people in Frisco. You can't afford to get 3 to 5 touch points a week in everybody in Frisco. Nor do you need 270,000 people that you're even trying to, unless you're trying to be a 15 or $20 million company. But so many people want to go, yeah, I want to do Frisco and McKinney and Plano and this one and that one. It's like, for what? Like, own your freaking neighborhood you live in first, and you'll probably do $2 million in revenue if you just owned it.
Own your backyard. And that's kind of what I was trying to get back to is, everybody, which at least what I see on social media is everybody's focused on AI and OTT and listen, I'm not knocking those things. I get it. They're the future. They're great. Used properly. They're wonderful. But one of the things you did ask me earlier was take me on the journey. I'll tell you, man, it was a multi-layered process to marketing. What really had to happen was, and it took me years to do it. I wish I would have taken 1 year in the beginning to focus on this originally, but I didn't. I was, a tech with a seizure, like they say, trying to hire, trying to train, trying to do it all. Okay, get your brand tight, stay away from red, white, and blue. Have a story, have a feel good. You need to have a feel good. Have the right colors that stand out. Doesn't have to be your favorite color, just something that catches eye. Like you said earlier, pink. Why not? Yeah. I was going to make my next company burnt orange and lime green, 2 ugly ass colors, but guess what? You don't see a whole lot of that out there.
Right.
So the grassroots stuff still works. That was what I was saying. People are overlooking with all the AI and OTT and all the great stuff they can do nowadays, which is still good. I think they're forgetting this little stuff, and it's so cheap. And listen, 45 days, how quick is that? These guys are looking for a quick fix, man. I have no calls. My guys are going to leave. Hey, man, about $700 in 45 days, you'll do $100,000, or at least I did. You could do more. It depends on the subdivision you're picking, right? And yes, own your backyard. All right. A jingle doesn't hurt either. You can get jingles nowadays. Shit, AI can write you a jingle, right? I had to pay $5,000 to Loomis and Company for mine, and you don't have to spend that anymore. So there's a lot of ways the digital world is helping us, but it is a multi-layered thing. It is. You can't just, it can't just be a name. You've got to have your colors. You do need a wrap. It all has to happen at once. But think of how much money. Well, I'll tell you how much money I wasted throwing away on, hey, let's try this. Hey, let's try this. I spent $80,000 on radio at a time when $80,000 was my life savings. It was a long time ago, and I picked the wrong radio station. I didn't do any data research. I didn't have the brand yet. I didn't have a jingle yet. And I'm just so dying to get on the radio and get my name heard. And guess what? It was heard, man. People I hadn't seen since high school were calling me going, dude, you made it. I heard you on the ticket. Well, that's so great.
Doesn't feel like I made it.
You even have a celebrity endorsement. How cool is that? It's like, well, the phone hadn't rang more than 20,000 worth yet. So not real cool, but thanks.
Yeah.
I hadn't taken care of the small stuff yet. So I hope your listeners go back to the shop and go, we're getting yard signs. We're making some flyers.
Yeah.
do this. Do some reconnaissance, drive around, find where the good schools are. That's kind of the key. Because think about it, Jonathan, people stay where they don't want to move the kids around. They're going to stay until their kids are out of school. And if they have multiple kids, they might be in that same house 20 years, right? If you see remodeling trucks, that's a good sign. It's generally most cities are going to have favorable subdivisions to be in. I think a lot of your listeners know what I'm talking about when I say that. They probably know a neighborhood that's really great that they wish they had more customers in. And that's where they can target with what I just gave you. And then, of course, yes, follow it up with, with the right kind of digital marketing. I wasn't really going to go into AI today. I was about to start doing that, but I think we have other topics we're going to hit, don't we?
Well, here's what I want. I hope everyone listens right. That part where you just gave that advice. I've said it for years that I truly believe that if owners would get out and walk neighborhoods with their wife and their kids with a brochure and knocked on doors, just like the politicians do during political season, And I'll typically stand outside and talk to them, even if I don't align with their political beliefs. I still hear them out because they're friendly and they're talking and they
Right.
knocked on my door. They're not trying to sell me anything other than themselves. But like, if you just took that approach, hey, this is my wife Lauren, and these are our three boys, and we own the plumbing company here in your market, and we just wanted to stop in and introduce ourselves and give you a brochure. And if we could ever be your plumbing company in the future, whatever, right? I mean, like, that wouldn't be hard. And I think that with all the noise of digital and AI and everything else, like, that would stick with people. And I think it would hit really hard. And I think if you just took a couple weekends and canvassed a couple neighborhoods, and did the other strategy, like you're saying, put some yard signs out, have the trucks driving through there, people would be surprised how that guerrilla marketing approach would work.
It's
But
back to working. And be honest with you, I tried it because I remembered when I first started. You were asking how I started on $500. Man, I started cheap. I had no angel investors, man, and I did things like this. I decided that if I didn't have calls for the day, when it was just me and one other guy,
yeah,
I was never chucking a truck. I started with one employee, and I needed to keep him fed. So I would just go put out not yard signs, post door flyers. I kept them in my truck.
yeah,
Anytime I'd do them for lunch, and they did a certain amount of working, but I noticed that the combination of my truck being out there, the yard signs, and then, the door flyers, and then occasionally I throw a yard sign out. Back when yard signs were expensive to me, I would just put one on the corner. And I literally had some people say, yeah, I saw your sign. I saw your truck. I got a flyer. Yeah, you guys are really doing good. No, it's just me and one other guy, and we're broke. I don't know how I'm going to pay his ass next week. But no, one of the things I see a lot of guys asking is how to get calls. And if they will go back to their shop this week or next week, whatever, and give that a shot, man, you're going to find yourself. And listen, when you're doing it in your backyard, you're also saving money on time, driving time, wear and tear on your trucks, fuel. That's another thing about, you mentioned earlier, well, I want to do McKinney and Frisco, all these different towns. No, man, own your zip code. Own your zip code. When I owned my zip code, I started making such a bigger profit naturally because I'm able to hit more calls. I'm paying for less windshield time, less fuel. It instantly also raised my profit margin. Plus, my truck's already in that area. I'm organically growing there as well. So, they should, when they call Jonathan for digital marketing, say, let's start small. Let's start with this area. Dominate me here, however that works in your world. And then, the other thing I was going to mention is, guys, get a CPA. If you don't have a bookkeeper, I'm seeing a lot of guys that don't know their numbers. That was another thing you asked me originally. How do you adjust daily? You got to know your numbers. You've got to. You need to look at them. When I first started seeing financials monthly, I started day one with an accountant. It was one of the other things that old Joe Exotic gave me was get an accountant. I felt stupid paying for an accountant. It was $100 a month. That was a lot of money. And it was just me and one other guy, and he didn't have anything to account. There wasn't much going on, but he sure shit. He gave me a P&L and a balance sheet every month. Had never seen one before. I started to learn how to read it. And next thing you know, I'm like, wow, that's not a very good profit. Boom. Guess what? I already know. Look, cash flow makes it hard to know whether you're making money for some of these guys that are just getting started. They see money in the bank. They think they're making money when they actually might be losing it.
Yeah.
You got to know your numbers. You need to know you're at least over 10% net after everything settles. And that's going to break it down to how many calls per day. And that's going to break it down to, what your ticket average per call should be, what you should be charging, what you should be paying your guys. Knowing your numbers will answer a lot of questions I see these guys asking. Like, what do I charge? What are you guys charging for this? How do you pay this guy? Know your numbers. So yeah, start with some grassroots stuff. Go back to that. Here's another thing, Jonathan. Again, I didn't have any gurus back then or any best practice groups. I got little tiny pieces of advice and I just ran with what I had. Another one, somebody, I don't even remember who it was, said start from day one and make a profit. Always make a profit. Don't allow yourself to not have a profit. That means even when you're small, don't say I or me. We. Say we. Even if it is just I or me, say we. Because you need to charge like the we companies.
Yeah.
When I say we, I mean us, a bigger company. And I had a competitor in town, and I happened to know a guy there. I got his prices. It seemed ridiculous because I was small. I didn't need to charge that much, but I did anyway. Okay. And guess what, man, that I could feed my family off a couple of calls a week when I was that size,
Yeah.
because I was charging enough. All right. The small guys think just because they're small, they shouldn't charge. No, charge like you're a big boy up front. Yeah. Get that price where it needs to be and adjust on the fly. Okay. Uh, so make a profit was what I'm getting at. So listen, I first became a millionaire in the 0 to 5 million range. Okay. That's not a real respected number in today's world, right? Everybody, 20, 50, 100 million, um, I made a ton of money in the 0 to 5 million range. I socked away a lot every year. And by the time I was over 5 million, I already had a lot of money socked away. And that's something else I want the little guys to know. You don't get discouraged seeing everybody doing 8, 10, 20 million. That you don't have to be there. Jonathan, I bought a company doing 18 million with my own money, with my literally cash, because they weren't making a profit. They were losing money every month. And guess what? The snowball finally caught up to them. And I'm not going to mention their name, but they were near me. They were my biggest competitor. They were actually more than double my size. And they were losing thousands a month on their bottom line. Okay. And by the time they got their trucks repossessed and all their techs had quit, yeah, they had a huge customer base and a great name. They had stickers on 200,000 units out there. Bought them for peanuts because they didn't make a profit. You know, start small. If you're only a million or 2 million, make sure you're getting at least a 10% profit. It's important. You can make yourself wealthy as a small company with as long as you're making a profit. You know, so yeah, I'm going to preach about that because I see so many guys that are not. The company I'm helping right now was doing almost 10 million and making almost 3% net, and
Mm.
that's a shame,
How
and
does that happen?
not knowing numbers, to be honest with you. In my new business partner, he's a wonderful human being. Number one, this guy has a big heart for starters. He tends to overpay, and I understand that. He just loves his people. He pays a little too much in some cases. His head count was a little heavy, and this guy doesn't let a truck get 5 years old. He likes to buy everything new and spending too much and not focusing. His prices are great. He's
Okay.
right where he ought to be price wise. Just a little overspending.
Okay.
But big heart, maybe being a little too nice. Giving a little too much away. It's one of the things I love about him, though. It's one of the reasons I decided to partner with him. Is the wonderful human being that he is, and we fixed it for him, and so but knowing your numbers, man. I mean, one of the things I was surprised he was too busy focusing on his people. He really cared about his people and his customers, and he just put all his focus and love into that. He wasn't really looking at his numbers. Very simple thing, right? You'd think we all do. You'd be surprised how many don't, though.
Right. Well, I know a lot that don't know their numbers, and I see, daily someone asking how to price this or how should this be priced.
I do too.
What,
Yeah, how
what,
do you pay your guys? What are you paying your guys? That's
right.
another one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, and this is where people, I think, they start looking to the gurus, these gurus that have ran 40, 50, $60 million companies that would have been bankrupt if, somebody didn't bail them out. Right. And so I think you got to do your due diligence, right? You got to find out, do they actually, does this guru know how to run a business, or does
mhm.
he just have a 7-step process of how to go in and mirror somebody on a sales call? Oh, you,
You
you,
read on
you like the
somebody else's
Cowboys? I like the
picture.
Cowboys. Like, so what advice there do you give to someone who's been burned or is scared, that they can't afford to make a mistake and hire the wrong person?
Yeah, there's a pet peeve for both of us, right?
Yeah.
So we'll try to be friendly about this, though. Again, like I said earlier, a bunch of flashy chains and stuff and bling bling is not it. All right. The advice would be, if you know of an operator that has been at least 10 years, probably more is even better. Okay, that has successfully ran through all different economies, different presidents, and always managed to grow, retain their employees, and make a profit through that. Okay, that's a guy that's figured it out. because yeah, we can give you all the basic structure, how to pay your guys, where to spend your marketing money, who to do your truck wrap. Um, we can give you all that. You know,
Okay.
the org chart. You get that from best practice groups. I'm sure you can get it from AI now, right? What you can't get is how to operate during different situations, because there's so many that are going to be thrown at you. Man, 3 years into my when I built my building, my shop, 3 years in, my next door neighbor was an AC company. They built right next door. Literally, I could spit a loogie on my nearest competitor, and there's one caddy corner across the street. Okay, that's going to change how I do things. Okay, there's no playbook for, well, it doesn't say, you can't open it. The manual will be this thick. Well, what if my competitor moves next door? I mean, there's so many variables.
Right.
Weather, wars, president, demographics, competition, you name it, man. There's a million different things that can throw a wrench in the plan. And so, yes, focusing daily on your numbers. So one of the things I did, even when I was a smaller guy, because I started doing this in the 3 to 5 million range. Okay, I would look, and I didn't have Service Titan yet. It was very early in the CRM game. I had Service Fusion, which very similar, honestly.
Yeah.
But I could look, and I knew I got my labor burden rate down. I got my break-even rate down, okay, and my profit rate. I knew what I needed to, what my labor was going to cost. I knew what I needed to break even. I knew what I needed to do to make a profit daily, right? And I even tore that down to per call, okay, because I know how many calls a day we can run. I know how many calls a day I expect during different months of the year. And my revenue number at that time, I think, was only 25,000 a day. I think that was my break even. So I needed to go over that.
Okay.
And man, I was looking at 9 a.m. I was looking at 10 a.m., 11. I was looking at noon. And to be honest with you, Jonathan, I was so hyper focused on numbers, and I did things to adjust on the fly. For example, we're at 3,000 and it's noon. I got to get to 25. My comfort advisor has not run a lead yet today. I'd send a text to all the techs. Hey, the next guy to get a lead in the comfort advisor's hands gets $100 cash, and you can take off 2 hours early on Friday. Boom, there's a lead. Okay, that's something simple that I could do. I just worked it, and boom, and if it got sold, great. Now let's have one of the CSR switch to outbounding on recommended work, because we collect recommended work. We put it on a spreadsheet of, I don't want to give away too much to everybody, but call back your recommended work. Okay. And, those are little things you could do to adjust on the fly and meet your numbers. Now, at the same time, guilty of, hey, sometimes I'd look at that number, and if I was already over 25,000 for lunch, by lunchtime for the day, sometimes I just go home. That's not the hustler thing to do.
Right.
But hey, I hit my number. I had hell hit my number the last 3 or 4 days, and had to really work it and juice and stay extra late, to make sure I was hitting my number, get those calls on the board. So I'm going home. Now, again, that's when I was smaller. Okay. And I'm assuming we got the guys that are sort of struggling in the $2, $3, $4, $5 million range that are listening here. And that's how you know your numbers. I looked at them regularly. I focused on them all the time. And I wanted to make sure I ended the day with at least my break even. If it's shoulder season, try to hit your break even. Obviously, if it's summer, you better go way over that break even. You want to hit the profit number every day. But there are days where you can be okay with the break even. Like if it's here in Texas, that'd be February.
Yeah.
If I can just not lose money today, So, and yeah, if you're not, then go to your shop and do this grassroots thing I told you about doing with the yard signs, email, postcards, flyers, and truck campaign.
So grassroots, know your numbers.
I kind of think I drifted off path there. You're talking about how to pick a guru, and I'm sorry. I went rambling trying to make sure I'm delivering a takeaway. Man, I think a lot of people know who they are, but I'm surprised how many people have called me recently that blew their budget on a guru that, had been a comfort advisor for a couple of years only, and then decided he was going to show everybody how to run their business. Not going to mention any names, but there's a lot of them out there, a lot of fake gurus. The thing to look at is, You need to know, did these guys operate a business for at least a decade? Did they weather the storm through different seasons? Have they actually run a successful, profitable company before? That's what to ask of your guru. And if
Okay.
the answer is no, I'd probably pass on them, because they're really just, most of those guys are just regurgitating information that they heard from those of it that have done it.
Right.
And there comes with an explanation like I was just giving prior to, speaking about this. And that's adjusting on the fly. And there's so many ways you can do it. I just gave a couple of examples. Pardon me. There's many, many more. Adjust on the fly methods, depending on what all you service. What I was kind of referring to is more on the residential side. But there's guys that do commercial. There's guys that do multifamily. There's, there's different markets. There's mobile home markets out there. So you'll know what your adjust on the fly can do by just focusing on trying to hit that number every day.
So would you say an operator, and it had to be a business owner, like if you've gotten to a place where you have a general manager, someone that you're making responsible for owning the P&L or the numbers, if you're an operator and you're not managing and looking at the numbers on a daily basis and typically multiple times a day of your job board and your numbers coming in and out of the business, are you doing something wrong?
I would say hourly, not just daily, hourly.
Okay.
Because look, we can adjust on the fly and fix the day before the day's over.
Right.
That's what I would say to these guys. And man, does that sound tedious? Yes. But once you start doing it and getting in the habit of it, you're also teaching your team to. And then the team already knows, we had our CSRs knowing that by 3:00, if you don't see a call and, for at least 2 calls per tech on the board the next day, we got to get busy on that, and so yeah, your team will learn from you. It has to come from you at first when you're a smaller guy,
right? Let me tell you what happened recently. And it's little things like this, that's just like all the frustrations put in the book that I'm writing. But it's I'll have an owner call where I'm on a personal level with them, and they're like, "Hey, our job board's dead. We're slow." Then I hear, then I go, "Well, why don't you get your CSRs to do some outbounding?" Then the next thing I hear coming through the phone is, "Oh, they're too busy for that."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going, well, wait a minute. Like if you don't have any jobs on the board, like what are these people doing? Right. Are are they on Facebook or like, but it's like little things like that. And that's where I'm saying that I think too many companies depend on the marketing company. And now what I know about branding, it's like digital marketing should be the lighter fluid. And if I pour lighter fluid on this rug that I'm standing under right now, it does absolutely nothing, Gary. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've got a brand and that lighter fluid, you should be able to squirt that lighter fluid at any time to spark whatever you need. If you need to get some quick wins in or strengthen the brand or whatever it may be. But I think too many people are so dependent upon the leads. And if the leads don't come in, they're panicking. They're going to Facebook. Where are you getting leads from right now? It's like stop being one dimensional with your SEO or PPC. That the new pricing that came out recently from Searchlight show that in the month of November, across about a 2,000 different company data set, cost for PPC, cost per acquisition, was right at $900, $897 and some change. Mm-hmm. And most operators have no idea what it really costs for some of these lead sources, right? Mm-hmm. So that's for money to exchange hands. That wasn't the overhead, what it costs you to send that guy out. So you may be looking at $1,050 to $1,100 lead.
That's
and
crazy.
Then now you're trusting your guy to go in the house to turn around and bring you $400 or $500 back, right? I mean, you're upside down so bad on that lead source.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it's because you don't have a strong enough brand that either you need a lot of people searching for your brand specifically, right? That's a lot cheaper lead when they put in Max Mechanical than they do AC repair, and they just hope that they grab Max Mechanical out of the list of people there.
Right. Yeah.
So you need a lot of people coming to you searching for you. And if they do put an AC repair, you got to make sure that your name is popping out and blinking at them, because otherwise there's just a bunch of choices on the page, and you just hope that you Russian roulette and you get the lucky, the lucky pull there. So, all right.
You might recommend to some of these people, because I don't think Stochastic Marketing, they only do direct mail. They're not your competitor because they don't do anything internet. Mike Layton no longer owns it, sadly. He's the greatest, but he created one heck of a company. They're now owned by Certain Path. So if any of your members are Certain Path members, they get what do you call it? There's a rebate.
Okay.
That they'll get. Stochastic will teach you your revenue per customer, your cost per customer. They'll teach you that. Okay. They do what's called a MEAR score, which is marketing efficiency. And they, at least when Mike owned it, they made you do that before he would even do mailing for you. You've got to know what it is, because like you were just mentioning, if you're paying, if the average customer that you service is only, $1,200 a year, and you're spending $1,200 per lead, you're losing money. And you need to know that, because there's people that are, as you know. So that's one place they can go to do some direct mail, and learn the efficiency of cost per lead, cost per customer. There's a revenue life per customer. There's a revenue per year per customer, and it's an average, but it exists. Okay. Revenue per customer and lifetime revenue per customer, which for us, last time I looked at it, was something like 33,000. That was years ago. It might be more now. I don't know, but that's the lifetime revenue of a customer, right?
Wow.
It's interesting, all the data you can dig off into. And sometimes it can be a little mind boggling and give you, just scramble your brain, but cost per customer is definitely important. Like you just mentioned.
Yeah.
So I would, if they don't have anywhere else to learn it, if you can teach that, great. If they can't learn anywhere else, get with Stochastic, and get a MEAR score rating done. I mean, they do the MEAR score for free if you do a little mailing with them. And I still believe in direct mail myself.
I do too. So we don't do it. I refer people out for it, but I believe in it. Like it's another touch point. You need your truck traps, you need a billboard, you need yard signs, you need direct mail, you need digital. You can't be one dimensional, right? Yeah. But you got to be measuring everything, because I know people that used to have direct mail so dialed in, they knew which particular month and where they were sending it. They knew almost precisely what their callback volume was going to be. Like Easter, there was a certain card that we would create for them for Easter that had all these funky wild color Easter eggs on it. But they knew, if I drop this card in this zip code, it won't have nearly the impact if I drop it in this, because they've done it for so long, they understood what the return was going to be. And I thought that was super cool. But I think it's those numbers, it's one of those, you got to know your operating numbers just the same as you need to know your marketing numbers as well.
Definitely.
All right. So look, we're at the end of the show. I do rapid fire questions, Gary. So I'm going to ask a couple questions. You shoot from the hip and give me your answer.
Okay.
You ready?
Yep.
All right. The first question is Gary's childhood hero.
Ooh. For some reason, what first comes to mind is Batman when I think of childhood hero.
Okay. I like it.
Gadgets, right?
Beach or mountains?
Ooh, that's a tough one too. Beach.
Okay. A famous person that you would invite to dinner. They could be dead or alive.
Ooh, Robert Plant.
Oh, that's a good one. Most adventurous thing Gary's ever done.
Oh, wow. Let's see. Probably take a jet ski straight out to sea.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
If
I don't recommend it, by the way.
You don't recommend it. Okay. If you had to make a sudden career change today, what would it be?
Oh, wow. I'll stick with the one I've always thought I should have done. Weatherman.
Yeah, really?
You can be totally wrong and keep your job and still get paid.
And the last one is, what is Gary's belief in aliens?
I would say they may exist, but probably nothing like science fiction portrays them to be.
And not little green aliens or
Like
gray
maybe they're
aliens.
just amoebas, right?
Yeah.
So
Or
could
maybe
there
they
be
look
another
just
life
like, or
form?
maybe they look
Yeah.
just like we do. Like,
Does it have
like,
eyes and teeth? Probably not. You
yeah.
know.
Well, Gary, this has been a super impactful conversation. I think a lot of contractors are going to get a lot out of this. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story, and I think there's a lot more to be told. And so maybe next time we'll do it. We'll do an in-person podcast here in the
There
studio.
is, man. But Jonathan, I appreciate you letting me get out what I wanted to do, and that was I've been on a lot of these, and the one thing I wanted to really focus on was giving your listeners a takeaway, something they can go back to their shop, take action doing, and make work for them right now to help
That's
them
right.
make money or get their guys busy. And I think we iterated that pretty well.
Yeah.
So
I love it. I appreciate you sharing it. And I hope everyone that listens to it takes your advice, right? Especially the ones that jump on Facebook every day and our phones aren't ringing, guys. What are y'all doing for leads right now? It's like, well, here's a $700 solution that within
little
30
sweat
minutes.
equity, man.
That's right. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it, Gary. I wish you the best in all your future endeavors that you have with the acquisition side. And we'll have you back on the show soon to get a catch up of what's going on in Gary's life.
All right, man. Enjoyed it, Jonathan.
Thank you
Thank you,
very
brother.
much. I
All right.
appreciate it.
All righty.
See you, man.
See you.